movies the stars don't want you to see. Number 10. George Clooney, Return of the Killer Tomatoes. Everybody has to start somewhere, and before George Clooney was the monotonal brood machine that he is today, he was starring in Return of the Killer Tomatoes, which is every bit as bad as it sounds. The sequel to the cult hit Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, which I'm sure all 4 of you watched, Clooney plays a suave ladies' man who's roommates with the lead Chad. So in essence, he gets through this campy B-movie relatively unscathed. However, when you put this appearance next to the likes of his later performances, it's easy to see why he'd want it forgotten. Also probably because the fact that the word tomato will likely remind him of his Batman and Robin score on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 9. Johnny Depp, Private Resort. Back before he found fame as Tom Hansen in 21 Jump Street, Johnny Depp was struggling to make a name for himself, and he was left alone and devoid of director Tim Burton putting him in odd clothes and telling him to act the same in every film. As such, one of his first and most awful flops was the film Private Resort, the 3rd film in a series by producer R. Ben Ephraim to contain the word private in the title because comedy is hard. It was a low-budget, low-end, low-hanging fruit of a film focusing on sexy teens and jewel theft. It bombed at the box office, was about as funny as child abuse, and is something that Depp would love to make you forget with a wafting of his arms. Number 8. Mark Wahlberg, Fear. Marky Mark the Aardvark Shark Wahlberg is a very fine actor and has been in many brilliant films such as Boogie Nights, The Departed, Three Kings, and The Fighter to name but a few. But James Foley's Fear is a boring, limp mess of a horror film that he would love to make you forget. It's an incredibly awkward and unintentionally hilarious roller coaster of horror cliches and bad acting, and also has a scene where Wahlberg beheads a dog, which I can honestly say I never wanted to see, so thank you for that. It's such a creepy and, dare I say it, cringy film that the now Jurassic Mark will not want this revisited anytime soon. Number 7. Kevin Costner, Sizzle Beach, USA. And speaking of cringy films, hands up who wants to see Kevin Costner leer over bikini-clad babes in the early 80s. Oh, that's actually quite a lot of you. God, you guys are weird. The issue with this film is that it errs so close to soft porn that every cell seems to be coated in what I pray to God is Vaseline. It makes you feel dirty for watching Costner make out with random women all over the place, and if he doesn't want this to be forgotten, then I sure as hell do. And as for the plot, well, all I can say is that it apparently had everything.
A midget, a Jolly Green Giant, and a left-handed elephant?
Number 6. Bob Hoskins, Super Mario Bros. Ugh, this film. I've already said before how much of a stain on my childhood this flick was. Ruining the image of everyone's favourite husky plumber and being the reason why Nintendo refuses to make live-action films anymore, Super Mario Bros. Is just the worst. Poorly written, laughable special effects, and Dennis Hopper's hairstyle was bad enough, but don't you dare drag poor Bob Hoskins' name through the mud. This guy was f***ing Smee. Smee, for f***'s sake. This film needs to be forgotten, which I now realise is a stupid entry for this list as I've just brought it back once more into public view. So, sorry about that. Number 5. Sean Connery, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Now, for some reason, people actually quite like this film, but it's not one that ever captured my heart nor that of the critics, and was particularly despised by one Sean Jr. Connery. Despite being paid a hefty $17 million for his time, Connery frequently clashed with the director Stephen Norrington, and this grew to such a negative state that Connery actively started to badmouth the film, even going so far as to say that Norrington belonged in an asylum because he handled the budget and direction of the film so poorly. So I mean, do you even need to ask whether Connery would want you to see this film? My guess is that it's not going to be yes. Number 4. Mila Kunis, American Psycho 2. Now, see, there's a huge problem with American Psycho 2, which you can actually find right even before the film begins. Bret Easton Ellis never wrote a follow-up to his iconic novel. At the time of the film's release, Kunis was most well known for portraying Jackie in That 70s Show and Meg in Family Guy, and not for her movie roles. American Psycho 2 was released direct to DVD and only gained fame off of the novel and the slamming it received from critics and fans of the book. Since the disaster of the movie, Kunis has obviously gone on to become a huge star, but the public backlash to this film probably meant that it was one of the very few videos that Patrick Bateman actually returned. Number 3. Amy Adams' Psycho Beach Party. This one is on the list solely because Amy Adams is actually a pretty decent actress and should have been nowhere near the trite spoof horror surfer flick that was Psycho Beach Party. The film contained writing standards that would make Hacksaw Jim Duggan look like Woody Allen and comedy that felt like being eaten by pigs. Admittedly, this was her second ever role, but I doubt that she nor the rabid slew of internet dogs will ever forget that she had her bikini bottoms torn off during her short time in the film. Number 2. Paul Newman, The Silver Chalice. Paul Newman's career needs no introduction as he is one of Hollywood's most treasured actors, but until his last breath he declared that he hated his debut movie The Silver Chalice. Newman was active in preventing people from seeing this movie as it gained more and more attention after his rise to fame, and he even went so far as to take out adverts telling people to avoid the movie. So, what's wrong with it? Well, I mean, it's very boring and very long, and certainly no Cool Hand Luke, but Newman himself was a little bit harsher, calling it the worst motion picture produced during the 1950s. Thankfully for everybody, Newman's ad seemed to have worked, as the movie has long since been forgotten despite a DVD release in 2009. And number 1, Sylvester Stallone, The Party at Kitty and Studs. Sylvester Stallone has made some pretty bad choices over his lengthy film career, but none will ever top his debut in a softcore movie that was not released on DVD in the US until 2004. Stallone worked just 2 days on the movie